All right. This is I guess, a preface. I just wanted to talk about different manifestations of wickedness, different levels of wickedness, sometimes wicked actions, or even in some cases people, are hard to compare. Depends on your situation and who you are. But I've been talking a lot about spirituality, and I just want to give a warning to anybody that is on the path to figuring out what it means for you, how you connect to that concept, how you know yourself more deeply with that kind of wisdom, how you get to know your spirit and open that door, whether you're on the path or you're starting that path. I think a lot of people at this age, at this time, have gone through things that are making them, in some cases forcing them, to realize that there is more out there, there is more in here. But I would like to give a warning, first of all, that you will encounter a lot of people that are stuck in modernity, and when they reach their limitations, or someone else presses on the boundary that they cannot pass, their lack of understanding of the world, they will punish you. They will be confused. They, in some cases, will be jealous, and some will act. It could be strangers that you interact with online or that see you. It could be people in your community. It could be friends. It could be family. And that's really sad, especially if these are people that are supposed to love you. But, everybody gets jealous, and what some people do with their jealousy and confusion and dis-ease. There's a lot of people with spiritual dis-ease at the moment. That has been inflamed from many sources, many of them elements of our culture and the way we communicate and the tools we use, but people will be jealous, people will be confused, and they will punish you, and they will slander you, frame you negatively, call you fake or false or a liar when you have done nothing but strive to tell the truth and seek the truth and share that. And in some cases, at worst, people will try to shut you down. People will falsely accuse you of horrible things that you would never do. People will call you crazy. There's many labels that a person can use. Look in the DSM. There's a grab bag of labels that people can use to defame, box in, and pack away others so that they're not such a problem, so that they don't keep inflaming other people's limitations and pointing out the stupidity that modernity has inflicted upon them. So be careful. This is partly why on your path, especially maybe if you've had some awakening and you're starting it, this is partly why you're going to need to, at least for a time, maybe forever, I don't know, but let go of some people. And you'll have to see, depending on your internal wisdom, who that is and how you want to do that and for how long. I guess it's partly dependent on how these people act that are not loving and supporting and respecting you. But you might get people that will slander you, falsely accuse you, and even label you as crazy. The only official labels I've ever acquired from a professional were, it's kind of a silly designation, but adult ADHD. I can be a little hyperactive, but I think I spend most of my time being a little more calm. Sometimes if I'm in a good centered aligned state, I'll be whipping around. It might look like I'm on some sort of stimulant drug or something like that, but at most it's going to be caffeine and sometimes nothing at all. But I have a very focused and fast-moving energy that I got from my mother. People can misunderstand that. And chronic migraines. It's silly, whether it's something that you recognize as a child or something as an adult. The distinction Seems a little ridiculous to me. So, and I'm not always that hyperactive. So ADD, I was diagnosed with that at one point, and chronic migraines. That's it. But people will try to throw all sorts of labels on you. People will falsely accuse you. At worst, try to get you in jail for something you never even did. Would never ever do. People will try to get you locked up in an institution just because you're shining light on their demons and it hurts them so bad and they don't know what to do. Might be your loved ones, might be people around you, might be people you've never met. It's all really sad. It's all really sad. It's all a case of people not facing their own shit, not being honest with themselves, and doing the work that they need to do, and blaming others for it. But wickedness exists, and it serves a function. As you'll see in this upcoming video, wickedness helps us learn lessons as others enact wickedness on us, and helps us learn about ourselves, helps us learn what not to do. It can teach us. Hopefully. Yeah, I mean, wicked is a strong word, but people do wrong against you, you know? Maybe for this preface and these next few examples of people doing wrong, at least to me in my life, I won't use that harsh word, but it's all on a spectrum of wrong deeds and thoughts. Eventually thoughts lead to deeds. So the woman that I broke it off with, I haven't spoken to her since she came to pick up her stuff, sort of mid-August, I guess. I don't know what she's up to. Possibly one mysterious communication, maybe from her. I'll go over that in a future video when I run down a list of red flags. Surprisingly long once I sat down and thought about it, but a list of red flags that, in hindsight, I noticed. And at the time, I noticed many of them, but sadly ignored them. It's part of my lesson and my mistakes. And I don't know. I don't know what they mean. But too many of them piled up. So on August 8th, a minute before noon, I sent her a text that said, "The relationship is over. We can talk in person. Wish better choices were made, but no." And I meant better choices in both cases. I mean, maybe more her, because I feel like in a lot of cases I was making choices that were in both of our best interests. In some cases, not so much in my best interest, but in her best interest, because I loved her and I'm very loyal. But, I didn't always make the right choice in regards to her, but most of the time I strived to. I made the hard choices. And I definitely didn't make the right choices for myself. I probably should have got out of the relationship much earlier. But it is what it is. It is what it is. And the place that I'm at now, I'm feeling better, stronger, more focused, and able to accomplish the tasks within my day and over my weeks more than I have for years and years. In some cases, more than ever in my life. And I knew that I needed to get out of it. I knew that it was a drain. I knew that it was holding me back. The relationship with this woman, I told her. And like many intuitive notions that I've had over my life, I needed to trust myself more and drown out all the bullshit, all the advice, all the misunderstandings that people projected onto me, and just listen better to myself. And so in this case I did. I sent that text. I walked through the Lion's Gate. And I have not been the same since. So there was a bunch of red flags. I'll make a video about that. I'm sort of organizing them all, getting that together at the moment. But, on the surface, the long-distance relationship, I said it was a deal breaker. I put up with it for a while. And eventually it broke the deal. And I walked away. I broke up with her. It wasn't okay. It wasn't fair. for her coming back and forth from Montreal to Toronto, staying here for a week or two or a month and going back there for a while. I just couldn't build a foundation. I knew after all the turmoil of my own health issues, but mostly, my mom's illness and then her death, the worldwide sickness while my dad was sick and dying. It was a catastrophe. I didn't just have, my house blown over by, some natural disaster. The ground shook and cracked apart. And, I knew I had to rebuild the foundation. And I was trying to do that while I was in the relationship with this woman, but it was going painfully slow. And part of that was just the first few little steps I was taking, initial groundwork. And I've taken some of that groundwork in these last, couple months month and a half since I broke it off with her. I've made much progress, leaps and bounds. I've worked hard, I've strived, and it's really incredible to me where I'm at now and where I'm going. You can do it too. So, aside from the long distance relationship, she just wasn't supportive. She wasn't supportive of the videos that I was making. I was trying to speak to her about philosophy that I had an understanding of, about life, spirituality, different truths that were coming to me that resonated loudly and seemed powerful. And she listened to some of it, but sometimes it seemed as though these things were taken for granted. I would interact with all of her work, anything she presented me to. I'd speak to her about it on many times a week, if not a daily basis, if the topic came up. Unless I immediately had something to do, I'd speak about it for as long as we needed to. Again, a little bit of constructive criticism, but mostly just positive, uplifting, empowering stuff. And I kept giving that energy to her over and over and over, and she became very successful. And in small part because of me, but I was a significant ingredient in the recipe for her success. I wanted her to be a significant ingredient in my success, but the things that were really important to me, the No More Funland poetry that I've been writing for a number of years, in some cases on channels with large followings, so maybe a lot of people have seen it, and these videos, that's what was really important to me. I wanted to make some music, and she was kind of supportive of that, but not super involved. Like she'd sort of say, go do it, but not actually get involved. And I asked her to get involved because she had some musical experience, but it just never really constellated. She never made it happen. And I couldn't just keep dragging her along. So, that lack of support for the things that were important to me, for the foundation I was trying to rebuild, and the creative ventures that I was embarking on, that was enough. But the long distance relationship was just a weight I could not carry anymore. I asked her if she would take a hiatus within the month or two before I broke it off with her, and she wouldn't really answer, wouldn't engage with it. And I kept asking her, just so that we could get the house together, so that we can kind of align ourselves as a couple for the long distance future, which is what I wanted, what she sort of seemed to want, but with a bit of ambivalence at times. It just wasn't nearly enough. Again, I was giving out a lot more than I was receiving. And I had a lot of words, I love yous, and this kind of thing, but the actions just weren't there. It was not resonating and echoing in her actions. Now all the red flags were, that's a huge issue. And listen, any kind of violation of monogamous commitment, or crossing someone that you say you love is, that's wicked. That's wicked. I don't know. Remember, it's a very powerful statement. I don't know. I'll go over the red flags, and you guys and gals can see what you think about it. But that was enough to break it off with her. And as hard as it's been, I'm so glad I did. I've made so much progress already in a very short amount of time. I guess, even if it's out of a place of weakness or vulnerability or bad luck or something, this is still wicked. Stealing is wicked. So I have a tenant who's living in the apartment that I rent out in my house, who owes me over $13,000. This month is almost up. That's going to be racking up into the 14, I think, maybe more, maybe close to $15,000. And you can go on a string of bad luck, but at a certain point, if you keep promising things and nothing happens and you just keep not paying, you're stealing. You're just stealing. It should be criminal. But I trusted her and I listened to her hollow promises for a long time. And more than that, the laws in Ontario for tenants versus landlords are incredibly skewed. Now, tenants do need some kind of protection because, it's your home. You don't want to miss rent for 1 month and then kicked out. I don't think that's fair. Maybe you miss rent 1 month, like maybe you paid first and last. So your last month's rent that you paid when you got into the apartment covers that month that you miss. But I don't think you should really have more than a month after that first month when you're not paying. Maybe 2 at most, but nothing more than that. And she's paid barely half of what she owes for the time that she's been here. A year and a half, maybe a little more. And it should be criminal, but the laws are very heavily skewed, and there's very little protection for landlords. And there's a backup. The organization that deals with this kind of thing is understaffed. And, with the worldwide sickness, a lot of people had money issues and had trouble paying their rent, so there's a backup. So the amount of time that you should wait for, the paperwork to go through so that you can move forward and legally evict someone is, 2 or 3 times what it used to be. It's not fair. And people that do that, it should be criminal. And landlords should have more autonomy to be able to get a person that's not paying, that's basically stealing money from them, get them out of the apartment. But it is what it is. I'm going through the process at the moment, and that will take a bit of time. But I have faith that things will be okay. And hopefully this person learns their lesson. It's very easy to game the system out of a place of false vulnerability if you're a tenant and you know the rules. I don't know that that's what's happening here. Could be just a string of bad luck, but effectively in the end, when you have been there for a while and you've barely paid half your rent for the entire time you've been there, it's absolutely unacceptable and it should be criminal. But like I said, it is what it is, and I'm moving forward with what I have to move forward on. Now, the other thing I guess I have to mention, and this is to do with family. I guess the person that, the loved one that I had to say goodbye to or let go, got into a very long, heated conversation with this man. It's my brother. And I don't need to get into many details about him, but he's someone that I realized I couldn't trust, that didn't have my back, and that probably wouldn't stand up for me or fight for me, fight for my character and protect me if I wasn't there. And I saw it happen a number of times with my father's wife, who always was a bully. Always, again, and this is often how female bullies go and operate. You guys and gals can watch, some of you may have seen it, but you guys and gals can watch Mean Girls. Kind of gives you an idea of what female bullies do. It's sneaky, it's manipulative. It does involve a lot of slander and kind of getting people on your side. It's women with narcissistic tendencies that let their shortcomings drive them to do wicked things. And my father's wife had been one of those kinds of sort of sneaky bullies for a long time, since I was a teenager. And I tried to, at various parts of my life where I had to interact with the family, keep her at arm's distance. But when my father got sick in 2020, he needed my help. He was calling me like early in the morning, multiple times a week, and pleading with me. He was delirious because of maybe some of the medication they were putting him on in the hospital. And the disease had taken his body to a very dangerous place. But he was calling and asking me, about appointment times, which I had no connection to, and asking for help. And I just had to keep reassuring him and keep telling him that, it will get better and we'll sort this out. And I realized that I had to be involved. Aside from him pleading for my help, I just realized I had to be involved. And so I got involved, but his wife was competitive and manipulative the whole time. I guess there's a number of examples of that, but in particular, I guess I'd point out, so I didn't get the medicine for this worldwide sickness because my intuition was telling me it was not right, there was something fishy going on, or I just don't like to be pushed around. I don't like to be manipulated to do something. And it felt very clear that the whole world was getting wedged into feeling like they had no choice but get this medicine. So I was like, hell no, I'm not doing it. And I was the only one in my family. Obviously, that was a very hot topic for 2020 into 2023. Maybe things have changed a little bit. People have started to recognize how unnecessary in some cases the medicine was. And worse, how damaging it might have been for especially young people. But, I don't know. I'm glad that I made my decision, but time will tell. Time will tell on that subject. The point is, I would get into meetings on the video conferencing platform Zoom with my brother, my father, who was in the hospital, and his wife, as well as the doctor. And a number of times his wife would either one of the first things that were said or that she would say, or very early in the meeting, she would bring up and point out all the terrible things that the anti-mediciners, if you follow my meaning, were doing. And very pointedly blaming the anti-mediciners with a nasty tone for how severe the sickness was, which also implied that there was some almost harm being caused to my father, given how vulnerable his immune system was, by the anti-mediciners. And everyone, doctor, father's wife, and my brother, knew that I hadn't had the medicine. And so it also implicated me. It kind of lumped me in to being one of the anti-mediciners. I mean, that's kind of the mania that some people, especially Canadians, unfortunately, got stuck in. There's this mania of us versus them. I got my medicine, and there's all these people ruining society and being selfish because they didn't want to make that coercive medical choice. So she would bring it up. Some news, some statistics. And, it was very clear that it was implying some harm to my father and some culpability, some responsibility that I had because I made what was the correct choice for my health. Now, after a few times, I spoke up. I mean, my voice was probably shaking a little bit because I was fucking pissed. I just can't stand that kind of manipulative, passive-aggressive bully shit, right? I can't stand it. But I tend to attract some of these kinds of bullies. And so I had to stand up for myself, and I kept it together. I kept it clean, but I probably had a little shake in my voice and, somewhat intense look in my eyes. And, I basically said, listen, we all know that I haven't had this medicine. And so when you keep going on about this news about the anti-mediciners, that implicates me, and I really don't appreciate it. We're here to help Jim stop creating conflict in Jim's team. And I had to say it a few times. I mean, didn't necessarily stop her, but it seemed, at least for the sake of sort of peace in the meeting, the doctor seemed to, at maybe once, sort of empathize with what I was saying, maybe sympathize. But that's bully shit, man. That's not okay. Not okay to work that way. And I had dealt with many other weird, manipulative kinds of maneuvers from this woman. And who knows what she said when I wasn't there. Maybe even to people that I was trying to, professionals that I was trying to interact with while I was helping my father with a severe, ultimately terminal health condition. But, realizing that my brother didn't have my back, I tried to get my brother to have my back and be by my side. He kept trying to sort of play the field and sort of be a mediator between us. But I was defending myself. But when someone's attacking you and you push back, then they go, oh no, oh, you're so aggressive. I would get this kind of thing. And I wasn't even that aggressive. I would keep my words clean. I was assertive, but victimhood was used as leverage, as women with narcissistic tendencies can do. And I had to put up with that. You know, you have to be careful with family members that bully you, that don't have your back, that wouldn't stand up for you when someone else is talking bad about you and you're not there. So I love my brother very much, but I had to disconnect from the relationship with him, at least for now. Who knows? And I'm so glad that I don't ever, hopefully, have to be in the possibility of connecting with my father's wife, because she never, ever had my best interest at heart. Quite the opposite. And it was, you know, a lot of underground stuff, a lot of sort of subtle manipulative stuff, but it was very clear that something about me, I guess my light irritated her demons. And I wouldn't take her shit. That was the other thing. She could be kind of charismatic and was a good talker at times, and I just didn't buy it. And I would push back. I would stand up for myself. I would tell her no. She hated that. So I had to deal with that for a long time. You know, it's the kind of thing, I mean, I seem to have this strange reputation around the community that I live in, and maybe the city at large. I don't know the source of it. It's not fair, especially given what I've been going through, to frame someone negatively like that and put more on their plate when their plate's already overflowing with difficult shit. You know, it's not fair, but people will do it. People get irritated by your light, especially if you're walking on your path and you're learning your lessons. You're standing and striving in truth. It will, sometimes they don't even know why. Ooh, something wrong with that person. Oh, I don't like them. Oh, they're not giving me what I want. Like, your light will irritate people's demons. And some people will take that very far. So, you know, anything that this woman would say, I would not trust about me. This wife of my father was essentially an enemy within the team. It became very obvious and acute when the team had to tighten up and be strong for my dad at the end of his life. But I always knew it, which is why I kept her at arm's length. I mean, anything that she asserts, at least about me, I don't know about other people. I don't really know her impact or her relationships with other people. But for me, I would trust her less than almost anyone else that I've ever encountered to be fair and give accurate feedback about me. Yeah, she's talking shit. I don't know why she would be. Hopefully she's moving on with her life. But don't just take it with a grain of salt. Throw it in the trash, because I'm just talking about things that happened. I'm not calling her a terrible person, but she was very, very cold to me and manipulative many times. And maybe that's just me. Maybe that's just me. You know, I triggered her. I stood up to her. She didn't like that. But you got to be careful about, like, family and friends that, especially if they say one thing, positive things, and they don't act on it. But double especially if you kind of hear or get the sense that they're talking shit or throwing stones and hiding their hands, but then smiling in your face. At least for parts of your path, especially at the beginning, you're going to need to clear these people away from you so you can actually see where you're going. Because these people will stand in your way. I mean, in some cases, they'll try to get you locked up in jail or put in an institution. And it's disgusting. It's horrible. The demons that some people carry will inspire or even force them to do wicked things. So, be careful, be strong. And, like I keep saying, if I can do it, so can you.